Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our regular meeting. I want to start off by thanking everybody for rescheduling this meeting, and especially want to thank Andy and staff for getting everybody back together again. You just can't control the weather here in Colorado, and let me offer my apologies for not canceling earlier. It's hard to tell when to pull the trigger, but again, thanks for everybody for being flexible. Clara, we do have a quorum. And we'll quickly run the table for introductions. I am Norm Steen, Teller County Commissioner, your chair. Jill?
Jill Gabler, Colorado Springs.
Neil Levy, Woodland Park.
Annie Pico, Colorado Springs.
Nancy Fortune, Manitou Springs.
Rob Bearden, Vice Commander, 10th Air Base Wing at the Air Force Academy.
Ron Jevery, Director of Staff, 50th Space Wing, Schriever Air Force Base.
Steve Rose, Deputy Director for Cheyenne Mountain, but I'm representing Colonel Moore from the 21st Space Wing today.
Welcome.
Dan Rodriguez, 21st Space Wing, Deputy Base Civil Engineer.
Terry Storm, Chamber and EDC Military Affairs Council.
Bruce Davis, City Council, City of Victor.
Andy Gunning, PPACG.
Holly Williams, El Paso County.
Great. Welcome, everybody. The agenda has been modified. If you saw the minor adjustments, could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes. Public comments. We had Kathy Bird scheduled. She's going to be joining us in April. Let me make a quick comment about Ken Prather. Ken, as you know, works in our transportation department. Ken will be retiring after 27 years. He's not able to make it today because he's getting ready for that transition. We do have a small plaque, beautifully done plaque, in appreciation of dedication and hard work for the Pikes Peak region, 1992 to 2019. Those of you who have not met Ken, you need to take a moment before he leaves. Ken served, again, PPACG for 27 years, been here in 1992. Think about what you were doing in 1992. Joined us after working in the Army. We worked in entomology and environmental health, served in many different capacities, our environmental planning coordinator, transportation planner, and during our vacancy last year served as an acting transportation director. Great legacy he's left here. Many of the things you see in the pavement you drive on today as a result of Ken's hard work. In fact, he brought GIS to PPACG. Great professional individual. If you'd like to join us next Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m., please do so. We're having a reception for Ken just to wish him farewell, wish him all the best. Next Tuesday, March 26th at 4 p.m. right here. So I hope you can add that to your calendars. Our consent agenda is before you for items A through D. Anybody like to pull an item off for discussion? Seeing none, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I will move to accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Yes, we are in session. That passes. We'll move on to action items 5A, four-year plan. We're going to see a lot of Joe Urban this morning. Joe?
Good morning, Joe Urban, Area Agency on Aging. What you've got in your packet is the four-year plan, or what we call the four-year plan. It's actually called formally the Area Plan for Region 4. This is a plan that we submit to the state of Colorado. All 16 AAAs, area agencies on aging in the state of Colorado, submit these plans, and they are used to inform the state plan, which is submitted to Department of Health and Human Services by July 1, I believe. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This particular document is a byproduct of about a year's worth of work in terms of research and subcommittee work in terms of compiling it. It relies in large part on the work of the demographer's office, the local entities, and then we did 10 individual focus groups or community surveys, if you will, throughout the region. So we had Park, Teller, and El Paso County involved. But I would be happy to answer any questions. It does require approval.
Comments or questions for Mr. Urban?
And just real briefly, I want to thank Joe and the work, especially of Dave Betzler and the subcommittee of the RAC that really dove into this and made sense of it and really tried to weave this together with our strategic plan. It was Dave Betzler, Jen Nimmo, B, Babbitt, and forget who else I'm missing.
Jody Barker.
Yeah, did a fantastic job. Great teamwork to pull this together and move us forward in a really quick fashion. Yeah.
Seeing no comments, may I have a motion to approve?
I will move to approve the item number, area agency, the 4-year plan.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, excuse me, that's how we do it in our county. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I see none. Thank you, Joe. Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate your job on that. Item 5B, Area Agency on Aging funding allocations.
Also in your packet, you have a spreadsheet that delineates our almost last funding request. We, as you know, we have received funding in chunks throughout the course of fiscal year 18 as well as 19, and very likely we'll get that in 20 as well. This basically represents about half of the remaining funding that has been allocated to us. The balance was not requested, which is a very unique situation for us. Nobody here can remember ever having more money than people ask for. So what we're asking is two things. We're asking for approval of the current allocations, and then we're also asking for the Area Agency on Aging staff to be able to allocate the balance as needs present themselves throughout the rest of the fiscal year, pending the approval of the Executive Director.
Any questions there? No questions, no comments?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just a quick comment. Dick Elsner, Park County, could not be here today, but this is near and dear to his heart as well. And he sent me a statement he just wanted me to read real briefly, that he just wanted to thank Joe and Casey for their support in their efforts in getting the Senior Coalition in Park County to be a little more accountable, and he thinks we're on the right path collectively to improve service and make it easier in Park County with the Senior Coalition to meet PPACG's needs. So he wanted to be here to kind of weigh in on it, but just wanted to pass those thoughts along.
So Dick was one of the few that was here last week, Wednesday. Yes, he did, all the way from Park County. If you look in the backside of, and that's, I will take the head on that one, but if you look in the backside of N5B, you'll see the award column. You'll notice that zeros are in the Park County agencies. So his comment is clearly that there's some work to be done on some internal processes.
Correct.
In Park County, and we're working closely with that, and so hence Commissioner Elner's comment. And I presume that once those processes are in place, and there's some oversight in there, that we'll have an allocation then to fill some gaps.
That money is still available. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's in the budget. However, we do need to meet some basic standards to get to that point.
Yeah, very good. And thanks for working with them on that. So any further discussion, comments on the funding allocation for AAA? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve. So moved. Motion, and a second. Any further discussion?
Neil.
Mayor Levy?
Mayor Levy.
And Councilmember, all in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you, Joe. All right, item 5C, federal fiscal year 2019-2022 TIP, amendment number 7, and CDOT ramp metering presentation. Catherine.
Good morning, Catherine Winger, Transportation Planner. We have a request from Colorado Department of Transportation to amend our TIP, or our Transportation Improvement Program, our 4-year short-range program. This is to add a project into year 2019, and it's I-25 ramp metering as outlined in your packet, and it's a estimated cost, or an updated cost of $3.3 million. And we actually have CDOT's engineer here, Jason Nelson, to discuss this just a little bit to give you an idea what their plans are. Thank you.
Yep. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me. So this will be my third time here, so I think it's a really neat process. I was terrified at first, but the community advisory committee you guys have is outstanding.
Yeah.
Really sharp, and they had some really great questions. So it was a good to get through there. I was really nervous, but they're really well informed, and so they had some really great questions. And so
We do try to be nicer, but don't count on it.
oh, I don't know. I don't know.
We are rather proud of them.
Yeah, you should be. So we're going to do, we would like to do some ramp metering. And for our first phase, here are the ramps we kind of want to meter. So starting northbound Nevada, southbound Rock Rimmon, we're going to pick up the entire interchange of Garden of Gods, Fillmore, Hot Narrow, Union, Bijou. And then we have another outlier here just northbound South Academy. And so these are good ramps to start. I think they will provide some congestion relief. So the benefit of ramp metering in this kind of small disbursement is it's kind of going to help on the shoulders of congestion. So you won't have breakdown flows so quickly, so we can starve that off a little bit longer. So overall, your duration of rush hour traffic is smaller. And so I think we'll get some other benefits. So, I mean, the main focus is to keep the travel time index kind of steady through Colorado Springs instead of deteriorating so much. So we have a phase 2 and a phase 3, hopefully of ramp metering, where we'll really get really good density with ramp metering. So I think once we get really high density, we can do a lot of neat stuff with it and probably get better performance metrics. And so, what else I also want to talk about is kind of how we are doing ramp metering. So it is a little bit unique, and I don't know how much it'll pan out, but we kind of have a typical signal at the end of the on-ramp. You kind of pull up, and so you're detected, and this kind of sets. So let me pull back. So I-25, your density and speed will turn on the ramp meterings. So I think we're going, basically, if your average running speed is about 45 miles an hour, regardless of the time of day, it means congestion has hit I-25, ramp metering will turn on. And then at that point, pretty much the detection on the ramp metering will drive the metering rate of the ramp metering. So I think our pretty typical ramp green red is 2 seconds. So if you look at South Academy, there's quite a bit of storage we can do. And that left turn onto I-25 on-ramp from Academy is about 40 seconds green time. So you get quite the platoon of vehicles. And so if you look at I-25 right now, you can see average running speed breaks down around there because you're just shoving, there's a lot of turbulence with that merging traffic. So that's why we kind of picked that one up. But back to the point, we have a mid-ramp detector. So I'm hoping this buys us a couple more minutes before it fails. And so by failing, I mean we have high occupancy at this detection near the intersection. At that point, we run to a metering rate that flushes the ramp. So our goal is not really to we'll never back up onto local roads, right? We're just trying to buy more time and increase safety, really, for I-25 and emerging traffic at this point.
So to be clear, this technique will monitor the gaps in traffic on I-25 and then turn green when the traffic from the ramp synchronizes into that gap. That'll indicate a green, is that right?
Someday, if you
So dynamic, not static.
No, someday, if you have full disbursement of ramp meterings, you can really take a look at the whole interstate as a segment like that. You can move to more advanced options like that. Here, we're just saying, okay, we've decreased the acceleration length at the stop bar, so we can only kick this on at 45 miles an hour. So I-25 slow down to about 45 miles an hour. The ramp metering comes on, and then the dynamics of the on-ramp drive the meter. So because it's really a fail-safe from local streets right now.
So what's being monitored, the ramp or the I-25?
Both.
Both.
But I-25 just drives the on and off time of the ramp metering for now.
Okay. Will the light turn red all the time, or will it stay green if there remains open spaces?
It won't be on. So, yeah. So once I-25 drops down, the ramp metering will go green, red, and then
just shut off if there's
if I-25 speeds pick back up where we don't need to do metering.
Okay. Jill?
Good question.
So as I look at the map of the different locations you're going to install the metering, as someone who drives all of these areas on I-25, I guess I'm surprised that there's not one along Cimarron, as that is really the only place I see a lot of backup I mean, it seems to be the worst backup of any of the on-ramps.
So you guys are pretty well informed too. So the CAC asked that. It was a great question. So, and there's a really good reason for it. So for this round of ramp metering, it wasn't really an operational focus. We deployed these out. It was a safety. So what we did is we looked at side swipe same. So people merging into each other. And so we identified that as a pattern. And so with Cimarron, there was construction traffic. So accidents were sporadic and we couldn't really consider it just due to their on-ramp, even though, to be fair, we know Cimarron will need to be metered.
Because it hasn't been in operation long enough?
So during the study, it was being built.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I will echo with Councilman Gabler there that Cimarron is probably a place that we need to consider. But additionally, I just want to add a little side note here. Between Fillmore and Garden of the Gods, both northbound and southbound, is the only place that we don't have a continuous on-off lane. And so that's something we need to prioritize on our projects for I-25 even before we start considering building an inside lane, because that's something that's greatly needed. We do see a backup there even as late as 9 a.m. in the morning.
so those lanes that connect interchanges, aux lanes, they always trump ramp metering. Mark probably has. He's up here now.
Oh, and I'm just writing down some notes to give you two of where potholes are on the interstate.
I'll take them.
Okay.
Yes.
We're metering into the
That is a
microphones here.
I just wanted to fill in the board. That is a priority for us. In fact, it was on both ballots. Right now, we're really struggling with any funding. We can't even hold our roads together. So that section between Garden of the Gods and Fillmore is on our surface treatment plan, but we'll see if we have money in the next 5 years to do it. My concern is we're starting to lose roads, and our surface treatment budget is sorely lacking. So we don't even have money for that additional safety improvement. Now, we can look at, we've had a lot of side swipes in that area. We've had a lot of slowing traffic south of Garden of the Gods, so we know that we're getting a lot of rear-end accidents in there. A lot of people have been pushed into the guardrail. And because of that, it could be a safety project. So I think we need to look at that again to see if there's any funding for safety funds to do that. But it's about a $20 million project to connect those ramps between Garden of the Gods and Fillmore. And simply because we don't have the capacity at the Elston Bridge, we've got to widen that bridge. In fact, we may have to replace that bridge because it's configured wrong geometrically, so we may have to replace it. So, yeah, it's a $20 million project, and we've got our eye on it.
Which bridge is that again? I'm sorry.
That's the Elston Bridge. That's the overpass.
Okay,
And
thank
it's
you.
just north of Fillmore.
Oh,
So
yes, okay.
that needs to be widened if we do extend those lanes. So
$3 million is not a bad deal.
3.3.
Commissioner, catch that 300,000. That's a good catch.
Let me also note that the financial implications in the backside, the funds being used for this project are state faster safety dollars.
Correct.
And the project does not, the word "not" was omitted, the project does not affect federal dollars allocated by region. Right. Any questions of the discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems that the data, the positive impacts of this system are primarily anecdotal. Other than the side swiping data, how else are you looking to evaluate the effectiveness of these?
So our primary metric will be travel time index. And so the feds have a lot of good research on this, and CDOT has a lot of good data on this because we have ramp metering in Region 1 in Denver. So ultimately, if we can get really good ramp metering dispersion and real good density, we're looking for travel time index improvements from 12 to 17%. So that's a savings to your average trip through the corridor. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply that by 60 to 80,000 vehicles, it adds up for a user cost perspective and emissions, and so there's lots of benefits to it. So there's going to be a safety benefit, and I think there is going to be some operational improvements. But I don't think without a lot of ramp metering, really controlling it, I don't think you're going to get the big bang operationally that you usually see. But though accidents do cause congestion in themselves, right? So if we can reduce accidents, there is an operational improvement there. So Did I answer that? Okay.
All right, we have a proposed motion to approve Amendment 7 to the federal fiscal year 2019-2022 TIP as proposed.
I will move that.
Okay. Commissioner Williams makes the motion. Any second?
Second.
Yes, second. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, item 5D, Title VI, Environmental Justice Limited English Proficiency Plans. John?
Good morning. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jason O'Brien, who was originally going to do this item, is under the weather, so I'm going to do my best to pinch hit. Again, this is an item you've seen before last meeting as an information item. It's coming back to you today for action. The two items here are the Title VI Environmental Justice Plan, as well as the Limited English Proficiency Plan. Both are requirements of receiving federal dollars. The Title VI Environmental Justice Plan ensures that we have a process by which, if someone feels that they have not been treated fairly due to their race or any other of the protected classes that are identified in the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act or the Environmental Justice Order, they have a process by which they can seek remedy. And then the English Proficiency Plan, again, is a federal requirement, thereby where we identify what languages are spoken within the region and make sure that we have an open and inclusive process. Because we're short of time for this meeting, as well as that this is the second time you've seen it, that's sort of your very brief overview, but you guys are never shy about asking questions, so I will leave time for questions, or, knock wood, we'll hopefully get a motion to adopt.
Any questions for John? On two plans are presented. One is the Title VI, and then Environmental Justice Plan, the second plan. Any further discussion? Questions?
I'll move to approve.
Yes. All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes. Thank you, John.
Hit the stop.
I bet you were back in Tucson last week, right?
You know, I like it here. I really do.
Awesome. Great to have you.
I'm all in. So a couple of days, it's worth it not having a whole summer of 117.
There you go. There you go. So, you know, John moved up from Tucson, Arizona a year ago, and yeah, I thought about you last Wednesday. All right, we're going to skip item 5E, ECHO. That's moved to April's agenda. Item 5F, Legislative Committee. Jessica.
Good morning, board members. As you know, the PPACG Legislative Committee reviews legislation of possible interest to PPACG to determine whether it is or is not of interest. It is then, if it is of interest, the Legislative Committee suggests support, oppose, or monitor. The bills that were in your packet were Senate Bill 19029, which we suggested moving from monitor to support based on the discussion we had at the legislative breakfast after our last meeting. And we reviewed House Bill 191199, the Colorado Clean Pass Act, and the committee suggested we oppose it. Did any of our committee members want to discuss any more about the Pass Act? Okay.
My guess is maybe our military folks would like some clarification on the Senate Bill 29. Anybody can talk to that one? That's the tax residency presumption for military. Anybody?
I'm looking at Sharon, but if Sharon doesn't, so.
Senate Bill 19-029.
And on that one, I think it's on the governor's desk now, right?
Yes.
Is what we said, and that would, if I'm right, it makes it so that our military here do not have it.
Microphone.
It's just kind of a very quick fix-it act. There were some military people who, because they moved to another state and became a resident in that state, but it didn't change the residency in their military, they were still being double taxed. And it's just to clarify that with their home of record. so that they're not paying taxes in both places when they come back. So, and there's very small people it would affect, but there wasn't a process for fixing that if that happened.
Any questions on either bill?
Senate Bill 19029.
And you can read the text of that bill and its history on leg.colorado.gov. Yep. Any further discussion?
I do have a couple more updates
Oh,
that were
go
not
ahead.
on
Yeah, no,
our
please go ahead.
in our packet because they were reviewed by the Legislative Committee after the packet deadline. We reviewed Senate Bill 19188, the Family Medical Leave Insurance Program. The Legislative Committee has suggested we oppose this bill. It was in committee at the Capitol yesterday and was laid over after 7 hours of testimony. Would anybody like to talk a little bit more about that bill?
I went up to testify, but I wasn't ready for 7 hours of wait. So this bill in particular does create a new enterprise at the state level called the FAMLI, or Family Enterprise. All employers, governments, entities would have to pay into this. It's a percentage and of the amount. It's kind of similar to a workers' comp thing. You pay, the employer pays half, the employee pays half, and it all goes in, and it says that you can take 12 weeks of family and medical leave for people who are under the federal law, but as well as if you have a special relationship with someone you know. So I could designate Sharon as my best friend, and then I would be able to take 12 weeks of medical leave. You do have one of the concerns is if you have temporary workers, as El Paso County does in the summer, who come in, they work for about 12 weeks, then they become eligible for family, and if they move to another job, it is portable, so it would then they could work a week on a new job and take 12 weeks off. Also, if you have a second job, you can work the second job and be taking family for your first job. So those are some of the concerns. It was a very interesting discussion. I know at El Paso County it will at least cost us, based upon my numbers, we would have to pay .0064, so it's going to be about $1 million. Our concern is, of course, that takes out of bridges and public safety. And we are not happy about that. And then there were a mix of businesses in favor and businesses against. Arapahoe County was up there because they have a more generous family and medical leave program, and they were upset because they didn't want to give up their more generous program. There's no opt-out provision. There were a bunch of small business up there in favor of it because they really feel that it shares the wealth and it gives their employees an opportunity to participate in family and medical leave. Our chamber was up there opposed to it because we do have a very competitive job market, and so a lot of our businesses offer nice FMLA programs as an incentive. And again, there's no opt-out, and there's still some questions. It was laid over due to bipartisan concerns. I don't know what the concerns were because I didn't stay till 10, but there's still some questions as to whether or not it's going to mean that you can do 12 weeks of state FMLA and then 12 weeks of national. And there were pretty much everybody was set in their way on that. They either thought there's no way that you can do 24 weeks, or they thought there's no way that you're going to get out of that. So I don't think they've resolved. The state legislative staff keeps saying we've resolved that, so your state FMLA runs at the same time as your federal FMLA, and a couple attorneys say, no, you haven't. And so it was an interesting testimony, and I will leave it at that. I think in order to either oppose or support, we have to have unanimous here. So we just wanted to make sure we let everybody know. We don't know as if we'd actually get a full unanimous, and that would be a procedure we'd have to discuss.
Sure. Yeah, and I asked Casey to come up too, in case you want to find out what the impact is on PPACG as an entity. We ran the numbers. We're much smaller, obviously, than El Paso County with just 35 FTEs, but has some impact, not significant. But that was discussed by the legislative subcommittee on Monday with the recommendation of opposed to bring it to the full body. But impact to us, I think, was about $16,000 total.
Yeah, it's a little over $16,000 based upon our 2019 staffing budget. Half would be paid by PPACG and half would be paid by staff because it's a split. Half is employee and half is employer. We currently have a short-term disability program that we pay about $4,600 into. That would be something that we would look at eliminating if this bill passes, because it would be a duplicate of the law.
So the benefit would provide, if I understand it right, about $1,000 per month per employee if you're covered by the plan.
Yeah, the benefit is about $1,000 per month per employee, and then if you go over, if you make more than $130,000, you can't participate in it at all.
Okay.
So
the committee has a recommended and opposed position. Our consideration today is whether or not the board adopts that position. As Commissioner Williams indicated, we do not take positions on this board generally if there's one or more members opposed. So we're looking for a broad-based support. We don't want to harm any member of the council. So any further discussion on Senate Bill 19-188 FAMLI bill? Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, just one question. If the governments and the employers and stuff pay into this plan, if somebody wants to take the benefit, does it come out of a general pool or
Yes.
do the individual?
The enterprise.
And the other thing I forgot, it is an enterprise. It will have 211 employees by 2021, and it does have the ability to raise premiums. So if they have a gazillion claims in one year, there's no guarantee that your premium won't be raised doubled the next. Because it's shared across all of the employers. There isn't an exemption yet. I think there is an exemption if you're a sole proprietor. But other than that, there isn't any exemption for the number of employees yet, although I think that's something they're still discussing.
Yeah. And just to be clear, Commissioner Williams testified on behalf of her county, not on behalf of this board last week. So.
County hasn't actually signed a letter yet, so I just wrote my own personal testimony.
So,
but I learned all of this in 4 hours yesterday.
Okay. Any further discussion on any other bills, and Jessica, for consideration on a position?
So those are our new bills.
I think there was one more that came up during Monday's meeting, HB 19-1095, the Physician's Assistant Supervision and Liability bill. I think the recommendation was to go from monitor to support.
Yes.
And then the last item was, and we don't need to dive into it today, but maybe next month, but Commissioner Williams provided a draft of a bill that would detaper state revenues, a third of which would come back to transportation potentially, but it's still just a draft, not introduced yet.
Yes, I obtained a draft from CCI of legislation where the state wants to put on the ballot to debruce state revenues, and they would split it probably a third, public education, transportation, and higher education. And so that might drop and come before our next meeting, because we only have so many more weeks before the legislature is out of session.
Okay. So we have a proposed motion to support SB 19029, the income tax residency presumption for military, to oppose HB 19-1199, the Colorado Clean Pass Act, which would allow a reduction in tolling for electric vehicles, and an opposed position on SB 19-188, the family leave. Is there, that's a proposal, is there such a motion?
Hold on, we also need to add support for Senate Bill 029, the movement from monitor to support. So we need to support.
That's what I mentioned. That was my first one I mentioned.
2995 are support, and oppose are 1199 and 188.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
3 bills. 4 bills. What was the fourth one?
1199.
That was the second one I mentioned.
1095.
1095. And the position on that, to be clear, was support. Okay. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a
Second.
second. Any further discussion on those 4 bills? All those in favor of those positions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those pass. We have a position on 4 more bills. Thank you.
I do have copies of this draft bill regarding the tabor. I am going to set that on the table, so if anybody is interested on reviewing that draft legislation.
Great. Thank you for the hard work on those bills. We're going to omit item 6A. We'll move that agenda item to April. Begin next with our item 7A, military installation reports. Colonel Baylor, you want to start us off, please?
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Rob Bearden on behalf of the 10th Air Base Wing and your United States Air Force Academy. A couple of quick notes. So spring break starts this Friday. Our cadets are obviously excited about that. We'll see them back on the 1st of April. Shortly following that, on the 4th and 5th of April, the Colorado 30 group is hosting our new CDOT director, Ms. Liu, and so we're excited to participate in that and meet her and let her know about some of what's going on at the Air Force Academy in the coming years. Beyond that, just a few high-level events to make you all aware of. On the 26th of April, our Board of Visitors will be in town. That is our congressionally mandated board. And then following right on the heels of that visit, the Higher Learning Commission will be here for our accreditation visit. So very important events. And then lastly, for the community awareness, 30 May this year is graduation. And as we all know, that is a huge event and lots of impact with local hotels and traffic and the like. So be aware of that right around Memorial Day weekend. 30 May is graduation. And that's it from the Academy, pending any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes, sir, Terry.
I'd like to add something about the Academy. Some of you know that there's been a contentious attempt to combine the endowment, which is the guys with money, and the Association of Graduates, which is the membership organization, under a single CEO. And it required a 25% of the members' vote. More than a year ago, there was an election, and 80% of the people supported it, but we only got 19% of the members to vote, so it wasn't a quorum. They just finished a repeat election that went along with board members being elected. It required 25%. Yesterday, they got to 28%, so it passed by 3%, and there will be a joint CEO of the endowment and the AOG, which is a major step forward for the Academy community.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments, Sharon?
I attended your planetarium opening. Oh, my gosh. I think the adults in the audience had as much fun as the kids did with that scientist teacher guy that was there. He was fantastic. So the planetarium is now open again, and lots of events going on up there at the planetarium. So.
Awesome. Great. Ron from Schriever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thanks for the opportunity to provide a few comments on what's happening at Schriever. First, Team Schriever, which includes the 50th Space Wing and other tenant partners, celebrated its best and brightest with an annual awards banquet Friday night, the 8th of March at the Antlers Hotel. The banquet was a great success because of the support of our sponsors and the Antlers Hotel, and provided a great opportunity for us to recognize our top performers. So we're proud of all of those folks. Second item I'd like to mention is the Air Force Space Command Inspector General completed a unit effectiveness inspection of the 50th Space Wing on the 4th of March. I'm proud to report that the wing earned an overall effective rating and also was effective in all major graded areas. The significance of that is the rating indicates that all our mission requirements are being met and that our personnel are proficient in accomplishing their mission. As a demonstration or continuation of showing that proficiency, the 50th Space Wing and other tenant organizations at Schriever Air Force Base are participating this week and last week and part of next week in U.S. Strategic Command's Global Lightning 2019 exercise, which is an annual command and control and battle staff exercise designed to train Department of Defense forces and assess joint operational readiness, across all of STRATCOM's mission areas, which includes space. We're proud to be participating in that. And speaking of the 13th of March and the blizzard, the biggest impact to Schriever Air Force Base was we closed down the base for 2 days because Highway 94 was closed and Curtis Road were impassable. We did have enough crew members on base to be able to sustain our 24/7 operations, so certainly there was no direct mission impact to those essential missions that had to be carried out, but certainly day-to-day operations suffered. We appreciate CDOT keeping the wing commander informed about the road status and when it would be cleared, and we could open up the base again, so we were able to do that on Thursday, but it just highlights that we are certainly dependent on two main roads, Highway 94 and Curtis Road, to make sure that we can continue to operate the base at the full capacity. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
One snowplow driver affected global operations. Wow. Any questions for sure? Yes, right, all right.
Absolutely.
Yes, Holly, go ahead.
So do you know, when did Curtis Road open?
So they never technically closed it. It was just impassable because of the number of vehicles and.
Well, yes,
but,
of course.
yeah, and the snow. But some people were able to use it starting on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yes, Andy?
Well, you're mentioning the global exercise being run by STRATCOM. I understand that STRATCOM at Offutt is now on essentially a naval air station that is half underwater. So,
that's right. Challenging us all in the exercise world for sure, and the real world to manage those operations. But yeah. Yeah, it's. It's incredible.
But the headquarters building is actually out in the dry part of the land, so opposite Offutt. Flight ops are affected, but the headquarters is not.
well, yeah, I used to be there, and the building I used to work out of is under 8 feet of water, so it's entertaining to watch the coverage from there.
Absolutely.
Truly joint ops. There you go.
Thank you.
But having operated from runways that get water over them, I can provide some technical education if you need it.
He's a naval aviator, if you haven't noticed.
All right.
Peterson. Dan, anybody, Peterson comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. My name's Steve Rose. I'm the Deputy Director at Cheyenne Mountain. As you know, Cheyenne Mountain is and Peterson both under the 21st Space Wing. I've been up there about 9 years, and on behalf of Colonel Todd Moore, my wing commander, who could not make it today, appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all and share both the Peterson and Cheyenne Mountain updates of what's going on. On a personal note, I appreciate this forum and the body. I've been participating through the JLUS and different committees in my role at Cheyenne Mountain, so I do appreciate the participation and inclusion in these in the committee here. So thank you. Just a few things, updates across both complexes. I'll start with Colonel Moore is departing. His time is coming up as our wing commander. The change of command is scheduled for the 10th of July. Certainly everybody will be invited. The new wing commander isn't moving far. He's coming in from Building 1. So Colonel Thomas Falzerano is currently the executive officer for General Raymond, the commander of Aft Space. So he's just moving down the street to become our wing commander, and he'll take command again on the 10th of July for your save the date if you want to come out and celebrate with us. The first one, I think it's been a repeat. You've probably heard us talk about it before, but one of our continuing concerns over at Peterson is the monitoring the safety and the public safety concerns out at Eastgate and Mark Shuffle intersection. Nothing substantial to report other than our most recent accident out there that was pretty bad was out on the 28th of February, departing the Eastgate going out onto Mark Shuffle. So that concern on that intersection, and I'm sure you've all been briefed on that before, is continuing to be monitored and seeing what we can do in the future to make that a safer intersection for a bulk of our people leaving Peterson going home. Another one that has to do with safety and traffic up in Cheyenne Mountain, we just awarded the total rebuild of NORAD Road project, all 3.5 miles from the top to the bottom. is getting completely overhauled, a full depth repair of the road. It's 55-plus years old, and when our landslide hit back in 2012, it accelerated the degradation, and so we're going to be taking it down. We awarded it, started construction on the upper part on base about a week ago. But the reason I wanted to bring it up here, just because it is a community impact, is around June time frame, we'll start from the Broadmoor Bluffs cutoff into the community going downhill. Our intent, and for familiarization to those who don't know, it is a military access road federally owned. We do have an MOU with the city that runs through 2025 to allow personnel traffic from Broadmoor Bluffs to use it. But it is a kind of a courtesy MOU use. But what we're going to do is exercise our right to shut it down during the construction for about 3.5 months. So we're going to start the ad campaign to the residents outside our gate to shut down that gate, and so because it will be at one-lane traffic up and down. So to congestion when we're taking down the deep overhaul of the road, the gutters, the underpass, the water runoff, all that construction. We're going to shut it down for about 3.5 months, the access to the road from the civilians. But we will definitely get the word out. We'll put signage up on Broadmoor Bluffs down on the Star Ranch interchange so that people don't come all the way up to find it closed, to go out on No Red Road and back down. So just a word of advisory to the people who are in that neighborhood, and certainly it won't start until June on that part. So we just because our local neighbors are always interested in third week in April, we're having a major base exercise that'll involve both Peterson and Cheyenne Mountain. It's we used to call it Condor Crest. You may have heard us use that terminology before. Condor Crest. It's a quarterly exercise. We've renamed it. It's now, it has nothing to do with the commercial on TV. It's now called the Free exercise. Free. It's a front range. It's an acronym for Front Range Expeditionary Exercise. As our Space Forces move towards an expeditionary role, so it's going to be less about car accidents on base. We'll still have some of that, but it's more about mobilizing the Space Forces for global operations and putting more of an expeditionary. So you'll hear the term free exercise, and the first one will be the third week in April. So if the neighbors hear gunshots, it's it's the exercise, and just want to let everybody know that we'll be doing some of that wartime global mobilization stuff that we do. The fourth one, just a quick pat on the back for some of our troops. The Red Cross sponsored a Hometown Heroes dinner at the Broadmoor, I think last week, in and around the hurricane. We three of our defenders responded. I don't know if you heard about this, but they were at the north gate of Peterson. They actually saw a rollover accident off base up by the interchange there. They actually ran from the gate off base and extracted a young lady from a car that was upside down. And three of our defenders, our security forces that responded, literally on foot from the gate, went cut her out of the vehicle and saved her life. So they were recognized at the Red Cross Hometown Heroes dinner last Friday night, and some really fine young airmen that really saved a life and did some really good things. So I believe those were the big highlights. I did want to say we also hosting the CDOT director. We're looking forward to that. I think we're getting her on the 5th of April, so I don't know if I think that's after coming. So we're really looking forward to the CDOT director visiting Peterson. We'll take her around on a windshield tour on the 5th to show her our concerns, the CDOT. And we do appreciate the opportunity with Colorado 30, bringing her to visit us as well. So we're looking forward to that. So, any questions? I think that's what I got for Peterson Cheyenne Mountain.
Well, if we haven't told you lately, we appreciate you being here, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, all right. Any other military updates, Terry? Anything up from the MAC? Nope. On to mobility coordinating, MCC. Joe.
Good morning. The Mobility Coordinating Committee had an opportunity finally to meet. We were finally not weathered out, and elected a new slate of officers. Miley Gray from Drive Smart Colorado was elected the new chair of that committee. If anybody doesn't know, that is actually a subcommittee of the PPACG board that works with specialized transportation. They're very interested, very enthused right now about increasing participation from the municipalities, and in particular, local folks. So if you have an interest in getting somebody appointed to that, page 78 of your packet has a list of all of the openings. The local mobility providers are very well represented. The municipalities are not. So we would love to have some participation from counties and cities and other folks. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you, Joe. Transportation Advisory, John.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, in addition to the two items we had today that you've already seen, the TAC discussed the TIP policies and procedures. We basically, what we've done is we've taken the old policies and procedures and we've updated them and we've enumerated them so they're a little more consistent and easy to understand. That'll be a 3 or 4 month process to make sure all of the jurisdictions are comfortable with those policies and procedures moving forward. There's no rush to move forward on them. But that, I think the line is, and the rest of the information is in your packet, Mr. Chair, so happy to entertain any questions.
Questions for John? Seeing none, thank you very much. Community Advisory Committee. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to introduce Tim O'Donnell. Tim, if you could just, he is vice chair, and he has another meeting, so he's going to have to leave like right away. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and introduce him.
Thank you.
The other second vice chair is Courtney Stone, and she was not able to be here, but if you watch Channel 11 News Monday night, she was giving a presentation on service and companion dogs. So at least if you watch that, you know what she looks like, but very important. The other thing that I want, and I'll make it real quick, we have already formed a committee to discuss how we need to change our bylaws in order to bring NEPCO into our group. We will be meeting, and that will be before you next month. And that's basically all I have. Tim, do you have anything else that you, because everything else has pretty much been passed that we talked about.
Any questions for Sharon? No?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Regional Advisory, back to Joe.
Sorry. Dave was not able to be here today. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think you've heard enough from us.
I guess they all agree with you. No.
I would add one note relative to the area agency which the RAC oversees. We were nominated for the Senior Resource Council Organization of the Year award this year. That will be held on April 17th, as was Mayor Levy's wife as a professional. So we have some good representation in that group.
Paula with Daybreak, right? Yeah, great. All right, any other questions? No? Seeing none? Air quality, technically. Andy?
Mr. Chair, I'll just give a real quick update on this. The Air Quality Committee continues to meet. I think our next meeting is next Wednesday. They're still getting organized to figure out what their 2019 work plan is going to be. It really centers on ozone emission issues. You know, we're still in attainment for all of our pollutants, but if we have another bad summer this year, there's concern about us going potentially into non-attainment for ozone. So the committee's been working on some public messaging, things we could get out to let people know why it's a public health issue and what we could do as far as embracing some voluntary emissions reductions strategies. So that's been their main focus. One thing that's related to this and the next item on the Water Quality Management Committee, one big thing that we're working on is we had interviews last week for our environmental planner position, so we're hoping to get that filled very soon within the next several weeks. So we have somebody that's focused just on air quality and water quality. Really looking forward to getting that support.
Okay, so Ken is leaving later this month. We expect the person to be on board in order to
transition pretty quickly, yes.
Okay.
Ken's last day is Tuesday, April 2nd, so the hope is that we get somebody on board shortly after that so we can have a pretty smooth transition on both water and air quality issues. And on the water quality, I'll just mention that the Water Quality Management Committee continues to work on the update of the Regional Water Quality Management Plan. It's the plan that really identifies what our wastewater sanitation district requirements are going to be across the three-county region, given our population growth and so forth. And it's a plan that should come to the board, we're thinking later this year, probably in the summer, for consideration. Okay.
Very good. Is the Air Quality Committee fully constituted? We got people on it that are working?
With the consent approval today. There were a couple additional appointments made, I think, on behalf of the city of Colorado Springs. And I think we're getting back to fully comprised with the committee. I'll know more next week, but I think we're in much better shape now.
Good,
Yeah.
good. And then for each of our standing committees, especially, I guess, the CAC, would they review actions of the air and water quality committees both?
Yes.
Presume? Yes. So-
Absolutely, yes.
Right, very good. Okay, thank you. We'll then move to CDOT update. Mark, you going to take this one?
Good morning. Again, Mark Andrew with CDOT. I'll update our construction program briefly, but all I got to say is bomb, cyclone, and avalanches. It's been a challenging winter for CDOT. It was truly a team effort with the blizzard, and we had a lot of stranded cars on 24 and 94 and I-25, and I think that added to the difficulty of maintenance trying to get that road cleared. But I talked to several maintenance plow drivers, and they said they just simply couldn't see the road. I mean, that was, and as soon as they do a pass, it was covered quickly. So it was all hands on deck. Some of my staff got out there, and we're out all night at road closures and helping motorists where we could. So it was truly a interesting experience. And I understand in '77 we had a similar storm that was even bigger, and several people died in that storm. So I think we're pretty fortunate in that respect. But it's been a challenging year to keep the roads open this year with unusual weather. But with that, we did lose state patrolman in the storm that was hit by motorists up in the northeast area of the state. That's our Region 4 area, and I can't recall the roadway. But we also recently had a maintenance worker that was killed in a, I believe it was a snow clearing operation or road clearing operation over in our Region 3 area, which is near Gypsum. So we had an all safety stand down the other day, and we had some conversations about how to be safe with maintenance and engineering. So I thought that was a good stand by our executive director to get that message out. So moving on to projects, we've got a very busy year for 24 West again. We're coming up with a new surface treatment project starting in April. We'll resurface mainly at night between 8th Street and Manitou Springs, west of Manitou Springs, and we'll also improve the 21st intersection. So we're going to extend turn lanes and increase that intersection capacity as well. So that project is slated for construction starting in April. Will go through next year. The fiber project that runs up Ute Pass is still ongoing. We'll finish that later this summer, may go into next fall, but that'll be mainly day work, and will close during non-peak hours where we need to put that fiber in. We're also doing a wall repair in Manitou Springs. We've got Serpentine Drive closed. We'll open that up before Memorial Day, and so that's a wall that we've had a crack in for several years, and it's gotten worse, and we just needed to repair that. So I appreciate the help with Manitou Springs and being patient with that. I know we've had a lot of projects in the Manitou Springs area, so we're going to do another cable rail project south of Colorado Springs on I-25, south of Fountain, actually, where we're going to do some more installation and some repair of some old cable rail as well. So every year we hope to have money to put another cable rail project out. We've had too many cross-meeting accidents in that section, so we're doing what we can to find funding and putting out at least one every year to try to prevent those accidents in the future. We're wrapping up the Rock Rimmon project. I think we've done the final striping. We've got some punch list items on that, and we've wrapped up another cable rail project south of Colorado Springs. We are working diligently to prepare for Executive Director Lou's visit to the Air Force Academy and to Schriever. And we hope to have some good solutions to some future projects that we might be able to do on 94. So we're working in-house to see what money we might have in the future to do some smaller safety projects on 94. But right now, a 4-lane widening project is certainly a good project in the future, but funding is going to be very difficult to find for something like that. So that's all I have from CDOT. So any questions?
Sure.
I appreciate the fact that you're working on that cable project, south again. I know that's been a huge concern. People just need to slow down. It's a lot of the basic project problem. You get down there, if you're not doing 90, you're getting knocked off the road. So people really need to slow down. But is there any thought of it coming up north? Because, of course, you probably know we had a crossover accident just last week where an 18-month-old baby was lost in that accident. And that seems to be an area right there around exit 132 where we do have a lot of crossover accidents again. So is there any thought of bringing that project up north?
Yes, that section from South Academy to Fountain, we'd like to combine it with a surface treatment project that we'd like to put out next year. We'll have to likely put that in concrete, and at the same time, we'll construct that cable rail. But we're short on that project. It's a pricey project. It's about a $50 million project for the concrete resurfacing and the cable rail. We're about $10 million short, so we're trying to figure out where we can get funding for that. If we don't get any funding, for that, I think we'll still move forward with some type of cable rail project. So we understand the urgency of getting that taken care of, and yes, it was unfortunate about that accident south of South Academy. So again, our goal is to really address those areas between Pueblo and Colorado Springs where we have the narrow median. And when I say narrow, it's not that narrow. It's pretty wide, but we've got high-speed accidents, and they're reaching the other side. So where we have those conditions, our goal is to finish that cable rail.
Yeah. We certainly extend our condolences. I think I speak for the board, extending our condolences and respect for the family who lost a little one, and certainly our maintenance workers and people involved in public safety. We recognize this is serious business, and thank you for all you're doing.
Right. Thank you.
Just real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark, just on behalf of all of us, I'm sure some of our constituents like to complain, but it was a tremendous challenge that you faced last week, and I know everybody in this room appreciates everything that you guys do, so send that word to your guys because it was a great effort.
Yeah, they did great. I'll pass that on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I have one more issue. Just as an informational piece, the Gazette on Saturday or Sunday had a fascinating piece about avalanches and Highway 550. Just something, if you didn't get a chance to read it, it was very interesting. So thank you for all your work over there, too.
You bet. That's a challenging road, I'll tell you. I used to work down in Durango, so I know a little bit about that road. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Just kind of a programming note, we had a presentation scheduled by Chuck Hurtado on the PEL for the I-25 gap, and we'll again defer that presentation to next month. Stack update. I didn't bring any notes with me. Andy, do you have anything?
It's been a while since we had the
Yes.
week delay as well, and we actually have another stack meeting coming up this Friday. But the main thing I think that was discussed last month, and Councilmember Pico was there as well, was zero-emission vehicle guidelines that may be coming out later this spring. There was a presentation by staff with PPACG talking about the low-emission vehicle standards that are in place, and now the zero-emission standards will be coming forth fairly soon, I think the end of April, with their economic analysis. So we'll stay focused on what that looks like, and we'll bring that back to the board as well. But any other thoughts or anything, John, that was noteworthy?
Noteworthy, there's a new staff vice chair.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, Executive Director's report. Andy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 4 things real quick. And first of all, I want to introduce a new staff member that we have. Will Mast, can you stand up, Will? Joined us earlier this month. He's our new Innovation and Technology Lead staff person. I think it took 2 positions to fill Ken's upcoming retirement. We split up some responsibilities of Ken's, but Will's going to take the lead with our GIS work internally, our modeling work that we do for our land use and travel modeling, internally coordinating our resources, but also doing outreach with our local jurisdictions, with universities and others that are working in the GIS sphere. So we're thrilled to have Will on board, brings a ton of talent, came to us from the private sector, formerly with town of Castle Rock for a stint. So I'm really excited. You'll see Will out in the community coordinating with your local jurisdictions. So we're glad to have him on board. Second thing I wanted to mention is we had a really good outreach meeting. Jessica and I went up to Teller County earlier this month and joined by Chairman Steen and the other Teller County commissioners, but had a great meeting in the city of Victor. I want to thank Deborah Downs and her hospitality, the city manager in Victor, and we're joined by staff from the city of Cripple Creek as well. But part of our outreach to our member jurisdictions, we just had a great dialogue on what we're up to this year at PPACG, what the strategic plan calls for, and probably more importantly, how we can fill the needs of folks like Victor, Cripple Creek, and some of our other jurisdictions in Teller County. But I had a really good conversation and some really good ideas to follow up on. I mentioned the strategic plan. I'm not going to get into this in detail, but in the report that I've got in your packet, at the end of that is our first shot at really reporting on what we're doing as far as, or what we've done in terms of strategic plan initiatives that we've been able to focus on for the first part of this year. We're still working on the format and the content and the level of detail, but just wanted to highlight that we're going to try to find a better way to report on this on a regular basis back to the board to let you know what we're doing that's in the adopted plan. So maybe we'll set aside some time to talk about that a little bit further next month or when we have some more time on the agenda. And the final thing I was going to mention is Councilmember Gabler wanted me to pass along that the Front Range Passenger Rail Commission is going to meet down here in this room in April. It's Friday, April the 12th from 10 to 12, and everybody's going to be invited to be able to attend that meeting. They're looking at passenger rail service between Pueblo up to Fort Collins, I believe, is the study area. The new executive director that was hired by the Passenger Rail Commission will be here as well, but that, again, is on Friday, April the 12th from 10 to 12. They're going to meet here. And I think Jill, as the chair or co-chair, was looking at moving the meetings around, so they're going to meet down here periodically instead of up in Denver every month. Yeah. And I believe that's all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions for Andy, our executive director? Comments? Well, great. We're going to be out before 11 o'clock. That's awesome. Meeting schedules in your packet. Any member entity announcements? Around the table quickly. Terry.
I didn't mention that the MAC had its annual membership meeting yesterday at the Space Foundation. It's a community-wide event. A lot of businesses were represented there, and the chairman gave an update on what's going on with the MAC. And I understand you had a little bit of a snowstorm. I'm from Green Bay, so, snowstorms are no big deal. People weren't driving around with flags on their antennas at the corners and stuff like we do in Green Bay. But the Mountain West Conference was very happy that they had their basketball tournament in Las Vegas, and I was in a swimming pool last Wednesday when you were in a snowstorm. But the Mountain West has had their tournament in Denver in the past. It's a good thing it wasn't this year.
Yeah, quickly, anything about Pasco County? No? Yes, Bruce. Victor.
Just a couple things. If you coming up in Victor at the end of this month on the 28th, we're doing a fundraiser for the Main Street program, and it's called the Dry Palette Painting. So if you want to test your artistic skills, you can come in on. It starts at 6 o'clock. It'll be held at the Fortune Club. It's $20 per person. It provides the paints and the canvas, and we have a guy who's our local artist, and he'll teach you some techniques about painting and stuff. So it's a fundraiser for the Main Street program. Also, I'd just like to say thanks to the Air Force Academy, because my wife works with a small dog Chihuahua rescue. We had some cadets that come out a couple of times now to help support that program. So that was really nice. I really have a good time and enjoy it. A couple other things. I also sit on the board for the Gold Belt Scenic and Historic Byways And just a couple of notes that are coming up. The Royal Gorge Bridge is celebrating its 90th anniversary this year, so they're going to have some celebrations and parties and things going on up there. Also, the fluorescent fossil beds is celebrating their 50th anniversary. So you want to, if you got time to come up and check it out. Also, when you come by, stop in Victor, check out all the things we've done in town. We've made a lot of improvements, a lot of upgrades and things. We've got a nice plaza that we use for events, and the only other thing that's coming up in the future is the Ag and Mining Museum there in Victor is also having a fundraiser. It's the third, it'll be in May, the second weekend, second Saturday in May, and they do a breakfast at 9, starts at 9 o'clock, and they make great biscuits and gravy if you like that. So, all right.
Anybody else around the table? Sharon?
Yeah, the City of Fountain is really excited. Just yesterday or the day before, we signed another one-year agreement with the Air Force for reimbursement for the PFOA issue. We are hoping to stretch that out and make a long-term agreement, so we don't have to be doing this every year, but we were really excited to have that done. And we are switching from the GAC, the filter, to the ionization. We'll be switching over to that. We found that has less breakthrough and is works longer term. We're going to keep the GACs thanks to the Air Force. We get to keep them and use them as a redundancy program, but it won't be our main keeping the PFOA out. Also, I brought some copies of our strategic plan we just finished, so if anybody's interested in having a couple copies of that, you can have it. And I will not be coming to your Main Street program. My people fall over and die when I draw stick people. So that would be really sad and embarrassing. So I will look for another event in Victor to attend.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that last night we approved the IGA with El Paso County to partner on the fiber optics installation up the pass. So we're very excited about that partnership and the potential that that's going to offer us, as well as potentially future partnerships. So thank you.
Andy and then Neil? Or you probably have it. Andy?
As some of you know, the city and the county teamed together to merge our emergency ops center earlier this year, something that's been under study for a very long time, and we got quite the workout. So we're learning from that. We're going to be doing some after-action analysis of that, but I think things work pretty well. But, and one other side note here was mentioned earlier about the avalanche danger in the high country. Being on the board of directors for our utilities, watch the snowpack, and it's at 150% right now in the high country. So the spring runoff is going to be exciting, and all of you in the mountains ought to be very careful.
Okay.
No, nothing. Andy, what was it last year at this time?
It was a bit lower. It was about it was down. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of half of the average snowpack, and this year we're more than making up for it.
That bodes well for us in the mountains and forest fires. So, thank God.
Yeah. Just a reminder, today is the first day of spring. It is the Rockies, though, so it doesn't mean anything. So, Mark, stay ready. The snow is yet to come. Thank you all for coming again this morning. Terry, closing?
35 years ago, we tried to work on consolidating the emergency management when I was the county administrator. So, yeah, it did take a little while.
Oh, yeah.
It took someone like me to get it.
One closing comment from Teller. We had a federal action this week. Senate bill passed that expanded the fluorescent fossil beds by 180 acres. I actually testified in that bill in front of Congress last year, this time, and it was finally approved. So we have a larger fluorescent fossil beds in Teller County today. Thank you all for coming. We're adjourned at 10:45.
Record. Nice job. Everyone was well aware. Well, and all these years that I've been there is decided to and I don't know what happened. No, you're all good. Andy, tell me what happened with that, the communication with the, I happened to get it from,
Push it up, you don't know what you don't get. I know, exactly. So we found out the worst possible time through, look at some other ways of getting more Well, Tyler was the one that I found out, and we always have lunch after this meeting. And Tyler said, I guess we're going to cancel lunch today. I was on my way down.